Welcome back. Joining me now is Kristen Welker from NBC's Meet the Press. Kristen, good morning.
Hi, Christy. Good morning to you. Good to be with you.
Kristen, today makes 3 months since Hamas launched an attack on Israel, and this morning you are sitting down with Israeli President Isaac Herzog. Kristen, your exclusive interview comes at a time when there are growing questions and fears about the next steps in this war.
Absolutely. We know that Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in the region for that very purpose. He wants to try to prevent what is happening in the Middle East from becoming a wider war, and it comes against the backdrop of a series of attacks in various countries throughout the region this past week. So the concerns are only deepening about the wider war. I'll be asking President Herzog about that. It also comes as some of those within the Israeli government have been calling for the removal of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. That is getting a lot of criticism and scrutiny, including from the U.S. government. So that is yet another area of concern. And then what happens after all of this is over? We know that Secretary Blinken is in the region discussing all of those, as well as pushing Israel to really try to have a broader plan to limit civilian casualties. So a lot to discuss with President Herzog as we enter this new year, and so much at stake in the Middle East. And again, as you say, the top concern for everyone that this is just expanding into a broader conflict.
And you've got a couple of heavy topics to tackle on today's show. President Joe Biden just days ago held his first campaign speech of the year, and during that speech, he spoke in depth about the actions of January 6th in 2021, the horrors of that day, its lasting impact on the country, and former President Donald Trump and his role in that. We are now just days away from the Iowa caucus, and you'll be hearing from both sides, a key Trump ally and the Biden campaign. How do you expect those conversations to go?
I certainly will, and you're right. President Biden is trying to put the issue of democracy front and center here. He is accusing former President Trump of being a threat to the democracy. Guess what? Former President Trump is accusing President Biden of being a threat to the democracy, accusing him of trying to weaponize the Justice Department, despite the fact that there's just no evidence of that. But it is setting the tone for what will be an incredibly divisive general election campaign if Trump does win the nomination. And that's still an if, because remember, Republican voters haven't begun to weigh in yet. The Iowa caucus is just 8 days away. If you can believe it, Mr. Trump has a really commanding lead in the state of Iowa. So we'll be watching to see if he wins, if so, by how much. Who comes in second place? Who comes in third place? And does the field start to narrow after Iowa? So some big questions that will be coming up and hopefully answered in the next 2 weeks or so.
All right, Kristen, thanks so much for your insight. We look forward to today's show.